Welcome to our podcast, Exploring Our World's Sustainability. Today's episode invites 5 leaders in their fields, and we will explore the complexities of sustainable development.
Hi, I'm Alan, founder of Ella MacArthur Foundation, and I'm represent the circular economy. From our perspectives, the problem isn't economic activity itself. It's the way our economy is designed. Today's economy is largely linear. We take the resources, make products, and then throw them away. We want to design out waste from the beginning, keep materials in use, and repair products so we can grow our economy without destroying the planet.
Hi, I'm Kate, representing Donut Economics. I believe progress isn't about endless GDP growth. The economy should be a balance. We must lift everyone above a social foundation, ensuring no one lacks food, healthcare, or housing, while staying below an ecological ceiling so we don't destroy planetary boundaries like our climate.
Representing UNRISD, my argument is that sustainability is about power and justice. If our environmental policies do not protect public services, reduce inequality, and shield the poor, they will cause massive social backlash and fail completely.
I'm Bjorn, representing a cost-benefit approach. I argue that money, time, and political will are strictly finite. Government cannot afford to fund every novel cause because we have a limited budget. Choosing to spend $1 billion on an inefficient green policy automatically means we are choosing not to spend that $1 billion on feeding starving children or curing this disease.
Hello everyone, I'm Professor Salim, representing Mineral Geopolitics. My focus is on the hard material realities of the green transition. Moving away from fossil fuels requires a massive amount of mining for critical minerals like lithium, cobalt, copper, and nickel. My main focus is that we have to face the environmental and human realities of where these minerals are dug up.
Okay, then let's dive straight into our first topic, how we measure progress.
Let's be honest about decoupling. Relative decoupling, using fewer materials per dollar of GDP, is easy, but absolute decoupling, where the economy grows while our total global material footprint drops, is a myth. Efficiency gains fail because economic growth just drives us to produce and consume more total things.
Right, that economic pessimism blocks real progress. History is the story of innovation. When the material becomes scarce, prices rise, and the market invent a superior alternative. Look at solar energy. Its cost dropped by 90% over the last decade. The future isn't about forcing people to consume less. It's about investing in better technology.
Innovation is great, Bjorn, but inside the broken linear system, it often just speeds up waste. If you design a smartphone to be replaced every 2 years and not repaired, even if it's efficient, you haven't really solved the problem. What we actually need is system redesign. Take Linus Choisy Leroy Planet, for example. They remanufactured used car engines using 80% less energy and 75% less water than making new ones. And it's highly profitable. That's what real decoupling looks like.
Aileen, I love the industrial loop, but who owns it? It's a few massive corporations that control all the repair systems and recycling platforms. Circularity just becomes a new way for the rich to stay rich. The material loop closes, but the power stays concentrated at the top.
We also have to face the physical scale of the loop. Recycling is essential, Aileen, but recycled materials cannot supply even a fraction of the lithium, copper, and cobalt needed for the world's initial build-up of clean energy. Let's look at the numbers. An electric vehicle requires 6 times the mineral inputs of a gas car. A wind farm requires 9 times more minerals than a standard power plant. The first wave of this grand transition requires a massive net increase in global mining. Total material decoupling right now is physically impossible.
Exactly, Salim. Wealthy countries just fake their decoupling data. They claim their local carbon footprint is dropping, but they are actually just offshoring their dirty companies and mining destruction to the global south. That's displacement, not decoupling.
You're describing a temporary bottleneck, not the permanent law of physics. This is why we need more R&D funding. If cobalt supply chains are an issue, we found the innovation of cobalt-free batteries. Market-driven innovation solves resource limit, not panic.
Substitution helps beyond, but it doesn't erase geography. It just shifts the mining pressure from a conflict zone in Africa to a water-scarce desert in South America. Every technology has a physical footprint that we must actively cover. And Rook, this material bottleneck is the perfect bridge to our next topic. We can't talk about clean energy materials without talking about the sheer urgency of the climate crisis itself. Kate, your model emphasizes ecological boundaries, and how do you see us balancing this material reality with the immediate threats of climate change?
Salim, it means we don't have time to wait. Climate change is destroying lives right now through catastrophic floods, droughts, and heat waves. Delaying action because future technology might get cheaper is morally reckless. We are approaching ecological tipping points, like the melting of global permafrost, where the damage becomes entirely irreversible.
No one denies climate change, Kate. What I deny is bad panic-driven policy. When we first immediate carbon cuts before green alternatives are cheap and scalable, energy prices skyrocket. When energy costs rise, the price of food, transport, and home heating spikes too. The wealthy can afford it, the poor are crushed by it. Climate panic creates anti-poor policy.
Bjorn, your argument erases historical responsibility. The global north created the vast majority of carbon emissions, but the global south suffers the immediate consequences. Low-lying nations like Tuvalu or delta regions like Bangladesh are facing severe flooding and sea level rise right now. They cannot wait 30 years for your market R&D timeline. Climate change is a human rights crisis. Disaster funding and debt relief are obligations, not just charity.
But where will the money come from if we intentionally slow down our economic engines? If we waste trillions on inefficient mandate today, we reduce our ability to fund real adaptation tomorrow. If we invest heavily in R&D to make green energy cheaper than fossil fuels, every country will switch just voluntarily.
Bjorn, emissions are a symptom of bad system design. Over 45% of global emissions come directly from how we extract materials, manufacture products, and manage land. Even if you run a wasteful linear factory on 100% solar energy, it is still a wasteful system. Climate action must happen upstream by eliminating waste at the source.
Our climate strategy must be realistic. Forcing a rapid transition without strict mining rules creates a new environmental crisis. Look at the Atacama Desert in Chile. Lithium extraction consumes millions of liters of water, draining the water tables in one of the driest places on Earth and destroying the farming livelihoods of indigenous communities. In trying to solve atmospheric carbon, we cannot destroy local land and water.
This is exactly why environmental policies fail when they ignore social equity. Like, look at the Yellow Vest protests in France. The government passed a top-down carbon tax on fuel, and it disproportionately hurt rural, working-class drivers who had zero public transit options to get to work. It caused months of violent riots because the policy punished vulnerable people instead of helping them.
Exactly. The lesson isn't to stop climate policy, it's to design it with a social foundation. If you implement carbon taxes without providing green public transit or direct financial rebates to the poor, your policy will fail. This France example highlights our core division today. Climate strategy isn't just about technology, it's about justice and legitimacy. It forces us into our final, ultimate debate, when social inequality, environmental limits, and economic growth completely collide. Which one do we actually prioritize first? Bjorn, your model has a clear answer to this. Floor is yours.
When these pillars conflict, economic growth must come first because wealth makes everything else possible. Wealthy society can afford clean technology, welfare systems, and environmental protection. Poor countries cannot regulate themselves into prosperity. Suppressing growth in the name of ecological limit traps real people in poverty.
That is the old trickle-down promise that has failed for decades. GDP growth routinely coexists with extreme wealth inequality and pollution. Social equity has to be the starting point. If ordinary people experience sustainability as an elite project that raises their cost of living, they will reject it.
We have to stop treating social justice, environment, and economics as separate, competing pillars. If you prioritize growth first and promise justice later, later never comes. If you prioritize ecology without social protection, people resist. We must balance them simultaneously.
Yeah, this conflict plays out every day in mining communities. Look at the cobalt mines in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The global market wants secure supply chains. Governments want mineral revenue, but local communities demand basic physical safety and fair wages. If you ignore any single part of this puzzle, the supply chain becomes unstable, leading to strikes and geopolitical conflict. Resource governance is strategically necessary.
The circular economy bridges these conflicts. Our linear system extracts resources in one country, manufactures in another, and dumps waste on marginalized communities. Circular systems retain value locally. By building regional networks for repair and recycling, we protect ecosystems, drop emissions, and create high-quality local industrial jobs. It aligns the environment with economic opportunity.
But only if we change who owns the systems, Eileen. Clean air for consumers cannot be bought at the price of poisoned water for mining communities.
Provided the economics actually work and don't drain valuable social capital.
Markets are not natural laws, Bjorn. They are systems shaped by our policies and incentives, so we can choose to design them differently. And I think this is the perfect place to pose our debate. We clearly see the structural tensions between us, so let's give our audience a quick final takeaways from each of our frameworks. Let's start the closing round. Waste, pollution, and emissions are intentional design outcomes. A circular economy provides the blueprint to redesign our production so materials circulate endlessly and nature can regenerate.
The economy is a tool for human flourishing, not an end in itself. Success is meeting human needs without overshooting the ecological boundaries of our planet.
Sustainability without justice is just equal management for the powerful. Without structural equity, there is no durable green transition.
We must be pragmatic and data-driven. The most human path forward is cost-effective investment in technological innovation, poverty reduction, and real climate resilience.
There is no clean energy future without minerals, and there is no just transition if mining communities remain invisible. The future must be low carbon, but also socially legitimate and geopolitically stable.
Sustainability requires us to be circular enough to redesign systems, donut-shaped enough to respect limits, justice-centered enough to protect equity, programmatic enough to count costs, and materially honest enough to face the minerals beneath the soil.
Well, join us next episode where we explore global tipping points. Thank you all for joining our podcast.